Welcome to Get Inspired with Real Talk, brought to you by GetInspired SWFL South West Florida. Today's session is brought to you by myself, Shay Penry, and the co-host. Super excited, Brittini Smith. This woman I've known since I moved to Florida. She means the world to me, and always love having any kind of conversation with her. So really glad to have her on the show today. The topics that we ended up rolling and picking were building trust, coping with uncertain times, and gratitude. So I hope you guys enjoy this as well. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Yes, I hope it's a good one. I think it's a good one. Building trust. That's our topic. I think there's different levels of trust. There's trusting somebody with your money, trusting somebody with the key to your house versus trusting somebody to keep something you said private. And I think that you don't necessarily need to have that same level of trust on all levels with somebody.
I totally get what you're saying. There are different kinds of levels to trust for sure. And I think it is based off of how you know that person. I am naturally a trustworthy person. However, on the other side, I'm a very controlling person. It's not necessarily that I struggle with trust. I'll trust you until you give me a reason not to. And sometimes that can put me in like a position to get hurt. Say somebody's not good with money. Maybe they're okay with money. It's not that I don't trust them, it's that I feel that sometimes I can do a better job at it. In recovery, we talk about, for instance, like our trusted servants, and I'll be in like service commitments or positions where the group consensus is to allow the trusted servant to do like whatever they're supposed to do. It's not that I don't trust that person, it's that I sometimes out of ego feel I can do a better job, which is something that I struggle with often. I think I struggle with asking for help because it's not that I don't trust it. I just don't trust that it's going to be done the way I want it to be done.
I have similar issues, but not exactly the same. Because I'm so hard on myself, I'm also really hard on other people. And I also, a lot of times, I think the worst of people. So instead of doing the opposite of assuming positive intent with somebody, I think oftentimes I assume the worst of somebody. In recovery, the ways that we build trust is we become vulnerable with somebody. We share our own experiences and our own story, and we allow ourselves to be known. And through that process, I think that opens us up to allow other people to trust us. Plus, just being reliable is one way of building that trust, doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, kind of deal. All right, our topic, and I think it's a good one, coping during uncertain times. How perfect is that?
Oh, wow.
Right?
Wow. It's such a prevalent topic right now because it is uncertain in all aspects. I think I just thought that nothing was going to happen. I set like a precedent for myself of life's just going to go on as normal. I'm going to work remotely and that's fine.
The biggest ways that I've been trying to cope during this is just trying to keep some sort of routine, which luckily for me, not too much is out of place. So, I work from home. I spend a lot of time at home already. That part of my day doesn't feel any different with everything that's been going on right now, and keep myself busy. Too much time in my head. The biggest thing that I miss that during everything that's been going on right now is I miss being able to be of service. I had so many different service positions, and now that I don't have that, I have to find other ways to get out of my head that don't involve me leaving the house. I think there's opportunities that I haven't explored. I could be more diligent about reaching out to others and checking in on people, maybe starting my own virtual meetings and running those. There's definitely things that I can do. But for the most part, I've just been trying to be creative and do art and be physically active and get sunshine, because that so affects my mood. Like, I have to be outside, I have to breathe fresh air, and I have to do more of it now. The things that I could probably get away with just doing periodically before, I need to do more of now to supplement that other stuff that's kind of dragging me down a bit. My biggest concern is my recovery. And I know the economy is going to do what it's going to do, and I try not to be concerned with that because I have no control over it. I try not to focus on those things, the things I can't control. I can maintain a good recovery during all of this, and that is in my control. It's based on my behaviors that I do every day.
I was speaking at a meeting and the whole topic of service came up. I am heavily involved with service. Like, I had that thought of like, how am I supposed to continue maintaining that? That's how I get out of myself. That's how I get out of my head. It was just as matter of like calling and checking in with a friend. And like that is something that I think that I'm struggling with right now. I've got a solid group of friends like that we're in like group chats and we FaceTime each other throughout the day and all that. But sometimes it's just BSing. And again, like that's not me getting out of myself. I have friends that are being of service and I don't know how to necessarily apply that in my own home. I've been jumping on these Zoom meetings. And for instance, there was this girl today who had 3 days sober. I offered to give out my number or whatever. There's little things like that, but it's not necessarily as fulfilling. So like, what can I do to be of service at home? Sometimes that's me being of service to my partner, to my animal,
Right.
like maintaining the house, doing things that aren't for me, but are for the common good. I've got a friend of mine who started a campaign called Strength from a Stranger, celebrating designs. She's an absolutely incredible woman. She's taking her greeting card business. On her website, you can purchase a card, and on that card, you can put in a special note of experience, strength, and hope and encouragement. And what she does is after you purchase that card and write your personal letter, she sends those to different rehabs and mental health facilities for people who are struggling. Because especially during this time, a lot of people don't have visitation or they didn't have support to begin with. And I've got a friend right now that I know is struggling and calling them directly and saying, hey, how are you doing? And instead of like just waiting for my turn to talk, like actually listen, not try to give out advice. Because I think that's the biggest thing for me is that everybody wants to be heard on how they're coping with this or what they're doing to get through this. Sometimes you don't want a response of what you should be doing, because I know for me, yeah, I should be going outside and exercising, which I'm doing very moderately right now. I've got by no means a regimen and I know I should. And recognizing that it's okay to not be okay right now. There is no set guideline on how you're supposed to feel because we're all very different and we're all going to get through it.
Another thing that you touched on, which I like, which was that it's okay to be however you're at right now, because I know for myself, I'll get into a certain place, mental state, emotion, whatever, and I feel like, oh my God, this is just how it's going to be forever. And I can catch myself doing that with what's going on right now. I envision, oh my God, we're going to be doing this through August. I'm going to lose my mind. Maybe it will, or maybe it won't. I don't know. But I know that even if it does, normalcy will come back at some point. So that gives me some hope. And then there's going to be good things that come out as a result of this. Not just within myself. This is going to have an impact on me, and I have a choice of whether that's going to be positive or negative. And there are going to be good things that come out of this if we look for them.
It's the whole concept of perception. I enjoy being outside of my house. I enjoy doing things, and it's learning how to love and be content with where I am right now. I don't need to be a million places at once.
You know, I mean, obviously one of the bigger things that comes out of stuff like this, just like on 9/11, is everybody pulling together.
For sure.
Which is always really cool to see. Here we go. Last
All right.
spin. And let's see what we get. Yeah, for sure. I think it's a good one. Sometimes people groan because it's definitely one that we get in recovery. You tell me if you want to talk about it or not.
Is it gratitude?
It is. Oh my God.
Oh no. We had this phone call the other night with a couple of my friends. And I wasn't in it. I just happened to walk by when Chris was on the phone and I popped my head in and they're like, Brittini, it's your turn. And I was like, what? And they're like, what are you grateful for? It's not that I don't have things to be grateful for. It's that I think I struggle to recognize that I even have those things. The whole concept of writing gratitude lists. I thought it was such a stupid task when I first got into recovery, and my sponsor would shove it down my throat. And in turn, like the girls that I work with today, I constantly tell them to write a gratitude list. If I take a moment to stop and reflect for like what I actually have in this moment, I have plenty of things to be grateful for. I heard one time that you're promised 3 things in life, and that's a roof over your head, food to eat, and air to breathe. What that looks like isn't up to you. And so sometimes I like to reframe that in my mind as, what does the roof over my head, air to breathe, and food to eat look like? And for me, that it is a perception, but it comes from like stopping, taking a moment and recognizing what you have, paying attention to the fact that you didn't have some of these things beforehand, especially as like a person in recovery. I had nothing when I came in here. Like I didn't have the capability.
It's totally about perception. And I think that's why I like gratitude so much. Originally, I used to hate it because, like you, I don't want to sit there and make a list of something. The concept I get because you're reprogramming your thinking, because whatever you focus on is what's going to increase. place. So if I'm not focused on things in a mindset of gratitude, then the world's going to look pretty bleak. I actually read something about this. Thich Nhat Hanh, he's a Buddhist monk. He does a lot on mindfulness, and his one book that I've been reading through, one of the chapters is titled What's Not Wrong? And basically he was saying that as humans, we need to get in the habit more often of asking that question, because oftentimes our default mode of thinking is towards the negative. If we get into the habit of asking that question, it helps us flip into that mindset of gratitude. The economy is going to shit and this is happening, right? But what's not wrong in my life today? And there's a lot of things that aren't wrong. I'm healthy. And then you go into your gratitude list. You know that whole thing in recovery where we tell people if they have a resentment for somebody that they should pray for them?
Yeah. Yes.
Right. The whole concept of that is you're reprogramming your brain. The reason why that works is because by associating that person with something positive, when you're praying for that person, you're more or less in your head combining a positive affirmation with that person. You're associating the two. After a period of time, you no longer have a negative association with that person. Some people probably wouldn't buy into that, right? Because that doesn't really feed into their concept of the fact that their higher power did that for them. There's a lot of things like that where I think it's more cognitive behavioral based things that we do that are actually making things work. Affirmations is another of changing perceptions that is a form of gratitude. I think all of those things, affirmations, gratitude, prayer, is trying to get the same result, which is shifting perceptions, raising your energy to a more positive level.
Early in recovery, I was a very negative person, and that was my way of being. And it wasn't until I started doing those little acts, prayer, meditation, asking my higher power to remove my selfish, self-centered, and dishonest thinking, things started to change. And I think it was just the act of being repetitious, right? I don't think gratitude is a constant state unless you are constantly working towards an attitude of gratitude. It's not something that you do a couple times and it's just forever, right? That's not how this works. It's something that continually has to be practiced. I am not always grateful. I think where, of course, gratitude starts is being aware that I am ungrateful sometimes. I am ungrateful that I have a job. I'm ungrateful that, I have a loving partner. I'm ungrateful that I have the ability to work from home, right? There's people out there that are filing for unemployment because they lost their jobs over this. I'm so ungrateful, and having that moment of pause and recognizing that thought and that behavior and saying, oh, I don't like that. I don't like how that makes other people feel. It wasn't until I recognized how it affected another person that I wanted to change it for me.
That is definitely one of the outcomes of everything that's been going on, is bringing that awareness to the things that we are grateful for and things that we took for granted. I took for granted that I could just go get my hair cut at any point in time, or that I could just go get teepee and, whatever I needed from the grocery store, chicken, just to go to the grocery store and be able to buy chicken.
I think if you reword it to positive thinking instead of gratitude, I'm all about it. But I don't know what my frustration whenever I'm sitting in a meeting and we're going to have a meeting about gratitude. And I think it's just because people start rattling off their lists. And I'm like, cool.
You don't care. You don't want to hear somebody's list because we're ego and selfish and self-centered.
This has nothing to do with me and I can't relate, so I don't want to hear it.
It is true, though. I think that is why. If people talked more about why gratitude was important and not what they're grateful for, I think that would be a more productive meeting.
Or just change the word gratitude to positive thinking, to positive perception.
Okay. I mean, if you do that, you might get more of the comments that you're looking for, yes, because gratitude's very vague and people are conditioned to give a set response, which is, what do I like about my life? That's how they interpret gratitude, which is nice. I mean, that's a good thing to think about for you personally. Go write it down in a journal.
Go make a gratitude list and read it to your sponsor.
Right.
Those meetings are cool. I'm not completely bashing them. I recognize the fact that I just definitely did. And I apologize. I mean, I always enjoyed hearing a sponsee going through a lot, having a super negative mindset about everything, to a phone call later. I'm grateful that I have shoes and I don't have to walk around barefoot. I'm grateful that I have a front porch to sit on and that I'm not living out on the streets, and small stuff like that. It makes me recognize that I have those things too. Those are things that I didn't even realize that I was grateful for.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Get Inspired with Real Talk. Don't forget, be sure to subscribe to this channel as well as check out our website, GetInspiredSWFL.com. Out on the website, you'll find all kinds of good things. You'll see information concerning any upcoming events, some online training courses. There's a submission form if you're interested in speaking at either one of our events or even on this podcast. Go check it out. Thanks.